In this world with conservatives and progressives, it's hard to find an intelligent person who is not one side or the other, who is willing to be conservative enough to make decisions and innovative enough to see the opportunities that are before them. It's especially true when you get back to Washington, D.C. They're not connected to this area. They don't know what we're dealing with. They don't deal with the situations, the friendships, the concerns and the trials, the jobs, and the issues that we face here. Yet somehow they've taken it upon them to make decisions for us. I want to say something to the media. I've been through a lot this last 2 years. The notion of fake news is very real. I appreciate you being here, but I'm going to talk to the people here today because I have not much faith in the media. For example, when we did our recapture protest, Channel 2 put up a clip of people riding ATVs on the sand dunes in the West Desert of Salt Lake, as if that was somehow representative of what took place here, even though they had representatives who were right here who knew that was a complete lie. And that's what I've seen from the media is lies, lies, and more lies. That's the result that we get from these kinds of things. We get people who have no idea what they're saying, go and sign petitions to protect some area on a false narrative, and it's very, very frustrating. Clause 39 of the Magna Carta says, "No free man shall be seized or imprisoned or stripped of his rights or possessions or outlawed or exiled or deprived of his standing in any other way, nor will we proceed with force against him or send others to do so except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land." Patrick Henry once said, "Caesar had his Brutus, Charles I his Cromwell, and George III may profit from their example." It's time to revisit the Magna Carta and the 5th and the 14th Amendments guaranteeing due process and to set things straight here. We did not empower the government to obliterate our friends and neighbors. I have a good friend, Dr. Jim Red in Blanding, Utah, who took his own life in 2009 after his family was raided and falsely charged with crimes that they didn't commit. The BLM would have been much kinder had they just come into Blanding, set up a execution square in the town square and proceeded with what they were going to do. Instead of defaming, maligning, auditing, intimidating, arresting, prosecuting, incarcerating, and of course, accusing. If you'll indulge me for a moment, I want to read a scripture. Those who know me locally, I have a hard time getting through something without a scripture or a quote from Shakespeare. But in Revelations chapter 12, it says, "Then a war broke out in heaven, and the great dragon was hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the world. He was hurled to the earth and his angels with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, 'The accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, he who accuses them day and night.' And the dragon was enraged at the woman, Eve, and went to make war with the rest of her children. And the dragon stood on the sands of the seashore." Isn't it interesting that another monument was declared yesterday on what was the ranch of Cliven Bundy? Is it any coincidence that Cliven is in jail, that his sons are in jail, having been convicted of no crime, in fact acquitted of crimes in Oregon, yet still they sit in jail and have been there for 10 months? Sorry, my fingers are cold, my papers are stuck together. Is it any wonder that Dwight and Steve Hammond are in jail? Well, husband and wife team Rhonda Kurgis, field manager for the BLM in Oregon, and her husband Chad Kurgis, the refuge manager of the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, filed an appeal in the 9th District Federal Court seeking an additional 5 years of prison sentence. While they're in jail, unable to take care of their families and their land, these coyotes continue to go after their property. I have no doubt that this declaration made while Obama stood on the sands of the seashore in Maui was intended to incite. I am certain that federal marshals are on full alert to step in and squash the falsely anticipated uprising. I'm equally certain that this is just more of the same ridiculous drama that defines this president and his administration. This is the 21st century. People talk to each other. Mr. President, your power, as much as you would like to believe otherwise, is derived from the people. Sure, there are plenty of people who work for the BLM or who derive their living in one form or another from the largesse of the federal government, or who are just obsequious. But the human heart has and will always favor freedom over security, especially when that security is being offered by a morally and financially bankrupt, out-of-touch federal bureaucracy. In San Juan County, we have these environmental groups that have come in to save us from ourselves. It's the false narrative, the tactics that they use are appalling. Yet the media doesn't report on that. There's a story here. I said that back when we were doing recaps. There's a story here, but it's not the story you're covering. Why don't you cover it? Why don't you say what's happening in these areas, these people? When I was a kid, we used to pledge allegiance to the flag at school and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our laws are to protect individuals, and the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, is to protect citizens from the jaws of an unwieldy government. Individual rights are not subject to a public vote. You can't simply take a Navajo sheep or a Utes tribal burial ground or a cattleman's grazing right under the guise of authority. You don't have that authority, Mr. President. So I don't call on President Obama for anything. I don't call on President Obama for anything. I want him to enjoy the rest of his vacation in Hawaii, but I call on my fellow commissioners here in San Juan County. I failed to mention that Rebecca wants to be here. She's up in Salt Lake, but would have been here. Fantastic voice. And I call on my fellow commissioners here in San Juan County. I call on the sheriff, on the governor, on the state legislature, and other elected representatives. I call on President Trump to follow through with his promise to reverse midnight Maui executive orders. This declaration... This declaration is an invitation to awake to the state of our nation's condition. This is not the founder's design. This is not how this was supposed to work. This is not a government awed by the people. This is not justice, but a travesty of justice. History will judge us by our response to this monument. We have a wonderful opportunity to do the right thing. Let's make the most of it. President Trump, Trump this monument. Yeah!